Washington State Patrol loses 3 of its own, all in one night.
Coming up, the investigation of a fatal fire. Investigators still do not know what caused that early morning house fire in the central Washington town of Zillah. Among the dead are dispatcher Ann Miller Hewitt, her husband, Trooper Gary Miller, and Trooper Christopher Sperry.
The home belonged to the Millers. Sperry was a guest in their home, and KXLY4's Jeff Humphrey is live near Zillah. Jeff, what a terrible accident.
And right now, state troopers in this part of central Washington, Dave, saddened by the loss of their long-term colleagues, but they're also concerned about how this happened, and they're worried, was this fatal fire really an accident? In fact, just moments ago, a cadaver dog located the remains of one of the 3 people that were here inside this fire, and finding that body is very helpful to investigators because they want to examine it as best they can. Was that person alive when this fire started? Because if they were, they'd have soot inside their lungs. They'd also like to take the victims and put them inside an x-ray machine because there is a small concern tonight that perhaps there were bullets found inside these bodies. And that, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but that's obviously a quick way that they could check. But the problem is this fire burned so intensely, they don't have fire hydrants in this part of Zillah, that these bodies may have been burned to the extent that forensic pathologists cannot do that type of examination. And so that's why the State Patrol, along with the Yakima Sheriff's Office, as well as the ATF agents here on scene, going very slowly, trying to see if the remains can tell them what happened to these people. They're so concerned about making sure they gather all the evidence before they leave. They've put up a chain link fence around the fire's perimeter, and a Yakima Sheriff's deputy is going to stand guard here all night long so they can return here tomorrow and continue with their examination. Now, right now, investigators are saying there is nothing that they know of that makes them think this is anything other than a very unfortunate, tragic fire, but they want to make sure they're mindful of what happened to the officers in Lakewood, and so there are a lot of people waiting for some very important answers here.
Hey, Jeff, we're understanding that somebody inside the home was the one who called 911.
Mrs. Miller is a dispatcher for the Washington State Patrol. In fact, she supervises many people. She's a veteran dispatcher, and so somehow she was, in the course of this fire, able to call 911 about 1 o'clock this morning and say there's some fire in my home, but then that line went dead. Take a listen. The 2-story home that belonged to Trooper Gary Miller and his wife Ann burned and then collapsed into their basement. Right now, the only clue to what happened here, a brief phone call Mrs. Miller made to 911.
Ann made a call and said there was a fire, and very momentarily the phone went dead.
Because there are no fire hydrants in this area, their home was still smoldering this morning. In fact, only within the past 2 hours has the fire cooled off enough to allow cadaver dogs to begin searching through the rubble. One of those dogs found human remains about a half hour ago. In the meantime, the State Patrol is mourning the loss of 2 troopers assigned to work their Grandview detachment. Trooper Gary Miller started out with the Grandview Police Department and then spent the past 20 years with the State Patrol. Trooper Christopher Sperry just graduated from the academy and had started his patrol work in June.
All 3 employees were due to work today, and none of them reported.
The Millers were letting Sperry live with them while his house was being built. Ann Miller Hewitt was the equivalent of a lieutenant in the dispatch world and well known in Yakima and Wenatchee, where she supervised 15 people. Never before has the State Patrol lost so many valued employees in just one incident.
It's unfathomable. It's impossible to describe. It's a horrible tragedy for any law enforcement agency to lose a member, whether it's an officer or a civilian employee.
Now here in Zillah, these 2 troopers were on call 24/7, and so they parked their marked patrol cars at the top of this driveway. There's concern that those 2 patrol cars in the driveway every night made a tempting target to some of the powerful drug gangs that operate in this area. There's also concern that a fire in this modern home, how was it able to fully engulf the structure before it was detected? Fortunately, the ATF is here along with the Yakima Sheriff's Office. Investigators say they're not going to leave until they have a lot more answers as to exactly what happened to the Millers as well as Trooper Sperry. Reporting live in Zillah, Jeff Humphrey, KXLY4.
All right, Jeff, thank you. When you sign up for Mobile 4 news alerts, you'll get breaking news like today's deadly house fire. Text the word news to 91404 to begin receiving news alerts. Standard texting rates apply. Again, text the word news to 91404 to receive breaking news text alerts right on your cell phone.
Well, the entire state is mourning the news of the trooper's death, including the governor. Kalai Chalk is live on our Sky Deck with what she had to say. Kalai?
And today, Governor Christine Gregoire thanked Ann Hewitt Miller, I should say, her husband, Trooper Gary Miller, and Trooper Christopher Sperry for their service to our state. In a statement she issued this afternoon, Governor Gregoire said, "I am deeply saddened about the deaths and send my heartfelt condolences to the friends, families, and co-workers of those tragically killed." The governor goes on to say that they should forever be remembered for their commitment to ensuring our safety. She says, "I am sure all Washingtonians share my profound gratitude for their service." The governor also says that she's in close contact with WSP Chief John Batiste. She says that the state will provide any necessary support for the ongoing investigation. Live on the Sky Deck, Kalai Chalk, KXLY4 HD News.
You can also track this story on KXLY.com. Just look for video updates and more information on the victims.